Jesus.
Why not? Go with what works.
Yeah. Also, they had a matchup in which Alexa Bliss would be challenged by La Luchadora, a new SmackDown women's competitor. All in all, would you say that this was probably one of the most shocking debuts of all time?
I don't know about all time, but it's certainly the most shocking one in a couple of years. Holy crap!
Man, this woman was just...
When did this creative decision get made?
I don't know, but all in all, this was just a pretty damn good matchup. I mean, I was very surprised to see La Luchadora, pick up the victory over Alexa Bliss with a familiar move, an armbar type deal. I don't want to say disarm her because that would give, a little bit of probably disrespect to Becky Lynch. Wait a minute. She's taking the mask off. Becky Lynch? No! So Becky Lynch has beaten Alexa Bliss? Oh, wow. So now we get Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship next week as well. Color me excited because that was just an awesome way of going about it.
Oh, God. It really was. It really was. I'm totally down for it. I mean, I've heard some people complaining that, they pulled the whole, it's, the champ or, whoever it was, underneath a mask thing. It's been done before. Like most things in wrestling have been done to death at this point. I mean, nobody was complaining when Chris Jericho did it with the Sin Cara mask a while back, for crying out loud.
This is true.
Ultimately, I was down with it. I mean, they're going to have the rematch anyway. That's coming, so might as well, do something with it. I was fine with it. I actually enjoyed the whole segment.
It was a pretty good segment. And honestly, I think it showed a lot more versatile and variety with Becky Lynch's tag with her with a lot of it showed a lot more moves than what she was used to, because you're used to seeing her having like just a one style, but to her come out and just do roll up deals after roll up deals after roll up deals, or doing like some random lucha libre style, I was very impressed. I'm thinking, well, they definitely know that she's got something different going on other than being an Irish lass kicker, or being a Irish line dancer. Great job in NXT, by the way. but all in all, yeah, like you said, great segment. Another title matchup that is going to be determined next week is a Four Corners elimination matchup for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team titles, in which we see Orton and Bray defending against Slater and Rhino, the Usos, and American Alpha. Now, obviously, this matchup came about because of the fact that the Hype Bros are not going to be able to compete for the tag team titles. Get well soon, Zach. All in all, geez, this is going to be a really good matchup, because honestly, I can understand why they put Rhino and Slater back together, because with these circumstances, it definitely calls for it. But the thing right now is that how are they going to, coexist? Because they had that, deal in which Rhino just walked away and Slater was just kind of standing there looking like, what? Where you going, dude? Where you going, dude? So, do we see a possible Rhino heel turn next week?
If we were watching Raw, I would say yes. And that's not a knock on Raw. I just do feel that Raw likes to take things, even when they're doing them extremely well, they do like to take them at a little bit of a faster pace.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So if we were talking about Raw, I think that the heel turn would just happen there. And given the way they've been telling their stories on each episode, you'd probably see all the build-up in that episode. Like towards the beginning, you'd see something happen with Ryan where, there's issues building between them, then there'd be another segment, and then a third segment, and then the turn happens later that night in the match. Given that we're dealing with SmackDown, I think there's going to be a little build-up, prior to the match, and then in the match, the seeds of the heel heel turn will be sown, but the actual turn itself probably won't happen for another week.
Well, I guess we're going to just have to wait and see what happens next week. So, guys, we're going to take a short, quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about NXT as well as Lucha Underground, which, Max, you are in for a wild ride when it comes to Lucha Underground. But that's going to come next on the Squared Circle Podcast. Quick shout out to our sponsors, of course, AJsBelts.com as well as ProWrestlingCrate.com. You guys check them out. Great deals on great stuff. You definitely do not want to miss out on that. Welcome back, guys, to the Squared Circle Podcast. Of course, as always, on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Player.fm, PodDirectory.com, Stitcher.com, TuneIn Radio, IW Nerd, as well as Satchel Podcast Player, and Castbot.fm, as well as Mr. NTG 1990 on the YouTube. Really interesting. We were talking about this during the small break, playing Emma's theme music, and this whole transformation from Emma to Emelina. Very, very interesting, to say the least, because here's the thing. I was honestly a fan of Emma, not when she first debuted, but when she did that whole recreation, and she just became this badass with the goggles and with the gloves, and she just looked, it took a while, but I finally just fell in love with this character. I'm thinking, she looks like a legit badass, she looks awesome, she deserves a push, and now what did they do? They're changing her to this, I guess you could call it a diva, not like a diva, I guess you would say Bella's kind of a diva, but diva more in the mind of, she's sexy, she's beautiful, all these things where you could find her on a Sports Illustrated calendar. Just really mind-boggling. And they've been delaying this quote-unquote makeover of Emma to Emelina for so long. This is becoming a really dumb pattern that they've done, because they did the whole thing with Eva Marie where she just kept delaying and delaying and delaying, and then they did the same thing with Kurt Hawkins where he kept delaying. Now we're doing the same thing with Emma to Emelina. When does the buck stop? For gosh sakes. Jeez.
It doesn't stop ever.
Sadly. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole transformation from Emma to Emelina?
I mean, on the one hand, I guess you could argue Emma probably needed some kind of a gimmick shakeup. On the other hand, I was actually really liking, the whole evil bitch thing she was doing down in NXT, but okay, change it up. Modeling gimmick, or at least a makeover gimmick thing. I don't know. I'm not against it, but I can't really say much about it because, well, I don't know dick about it other than they changed her name. That's my problem is that I'd like to say more about it. I don't know what to say because I don't have any info to go on because WWE won't debut her.
Yeah, WWE needs to just stop with this whole delaying of the debuts because it only can work for so long. I mean, if we would have seen the debut of Kurt Hawkins at No Mercy, would have been fine. If we would have seen, I can't believe I'm saying this, Eva Marie debut whenever, that would have been fine. Now they're doing this for a third time with Emelina. It's just one of those things where it just keeps dragging and dragging and dragging. Maybe they're going to do something for the first Raw of the new year. Maybe they're finally going to debut her, which, as long as she leaves a great impact, it'll be like, okay, I'm glad that I waited. That's fine. But if it's just one of those things where she comes out and says, just look at me, I'm sexy, and you're going to have to wait until next week to see more, I'll be like, are you fucking kidding me? We waited about 3 months for this? You have got to be kidding me. First of all, Zack Ryder, you have probably the best nurse in all of the land. And second of all, WWE. Need I say more? Need I honestly say more? But going to a happy place. We're not going to talk about that. Not even going to mention, just a side note, Natalya turns out to be the one who attacked Nikki Bella. Vicious promo by Natalya to Nikki Bella. I can't believe I forgot about that. That was actually really good. Where she talks about, basically busting her ass and she's wrestling royalty and blah, blah, blah. And that, the only way that Nikki and Brie could get over was through their men, which, they're kind of going back to what they were doing last year, but at the same time, there's a part of me that's just like, well, I mean, they're telling the truth. I mean, in all fairness. All in all, I thought that the promo that Natalya cut was actually pretty good. But let me get your quick thoughts on that before we move on.
Do I have to have thoughts on it?
Even if you want to just describe it as one word, then you can just,
Oh, it's not really a word. It's more of like a sound effect.
Fair enough. Or we could, damn it.
Oh, I can summon up.
We could have just done the soundbite for Braun Strowman's just run.
Yeah, that would have worked too.
All right, so let's get into a bit of a happier note. Talking about NXT, in which we found out who the new number one contender for the NXT title was. But before we get into that, one matchup that happened before that was Daria taking on Billie Kay with Peyton Royce at her corner. Honestly, again, I'm loving the chemistry between Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. I think that they could be this generation's, Lay Cool, which would be great because we haven't had that in a while. But Daria just continues to impress me every week she comes out there. When I first saw her, it's like, oh, she's doing like a mixed martial artist ripoff deal. Okay, don't care. And then when she gets in the ring, it's like, holy shit, she's doing a mixed martial arts deal. And she looks amazing. I'm okay with that. In all honesty, if it wasn't for, Asuka, I think that she would be probably the more dominant woman in the NXT women's roster. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Billie Kay, Peyton Royce tag team collusion as well as Daria?
Well, Daria, I'm just kind of. It's a general sense of. I don't want to say. Figure out the way to word this. I don't really want to say I'm necessarily. I'm interested. I'm not really hyped up. I'm not excited. It's more of a. I'm interested in seeing where this is all going to go with Daria. With I don't know. I don't know if I did with them. I don't know if I necessarily call them lay cool. Just yet. I think that it could definitely get there, and if it does, that'd be really fucking great. As for Asuka, well, I still feel exactly the same. Ain't nobody gonna beat Asuka. Nobody ready for Asuka except for Asuka.
Well, I'm thinking that the only way that Asuka's going to lose probably the title is by shenanigans, aka like a like a Fatal 4-Way matchup where she doesn't get pinned or she doesn't submit, something like that, or she just gets quadruple teamed. something like that. That's the only way I think I
Oh,
could
yeah.
see her losing.